Hi guys, welcome back. It's Emily's Voice vlog. This is part 4. I was thinking about after the 3-part series that I made, and there was definitely a few more things that I wanted to share that were a part of surviving gigs and dealing with kind of like a temperamental voice that sometimes gets hoarse and tight and tense. And it's funny, I was talking to some other musicians about this, and I think this is a great point to mention that every singer has to manage their voice. I think we're doing a good job of overcoming the stigma of like having to just be a perfect vocalist all the time, being able to handle anything that's thrown at us at all given times. But the more that like these famous singers are talking about how they've had voice issues, I think Kathy Griffin, the comedian, just said she had to have like kind of like an implant in her vocal cord because of vocal trauma. I know there's a new documentary about a famous musician who kind of lost his voice. But even just the gigging musicians, even healthy gigging musicians, you know, a 4-hour gig is a serious endeavor. And I mean, it's very hard for any musician to not be hoarse after that. So there is a lot of managing that kind of fatigue and the tiredness. So you're not alone. I was also in a voice movement and rehab class, who I will actually mention who that was. But every single person in there had a story about a time when they were experiencing pain, but they sounded good, so no one believed them, or you know, maybe they got into like a car accident and their like spinal and structural alignment was off, so like it really kind of messed with their endurance and their ability to perform on stage. Like my own history with, you know, having I had to get a polyp removed when I was in college, which I did recover from the surgery, but like it took a year to come back. There was mental health issues that came with that, like anxiety, depression, you know, identity crisis, all that kind of stuff. So the only reason why I'm kind of really bringing this up is I think the most important takeaway is that it's really common. It's not like the universe is out to get you specifically, which is what I thought, and many other singers thought too. It's really, really, really common. So I'm going to bring up a few great resources to kind of get you to getting connected to that vocal athlete community and kind of understanding that the voice is like you are doing an athletic event when you are singing. So starting with that, I do need to make a correction. I spoke about an author. Her name is actually Dr. Wendy LeBourne, and she does have a book called The Vocal Athlete that would be good to check out. But I think that concept of being a vocal athlete is real. That's why I think like the things that I'm talking about with making sure you have rest days, making sure you hydrate, making sure you maybe even eat a singer's diet, which is like heavily reliant on like fruits and like hydrating foods. Being cognizant of how much you're using your voice. That includes talking and practicing as well as performing. Like you should really think about your voice as like hours budgeted per day, per week, including every single time you use this. You're using this when you're doing this. This is that silence, that is when you're resting. If you are using your voice, you are using your voice regardless of what you're doing. So a few points that I want to bring out. There is a great, another vocal coaching program. Her name is Christine Schneider, and she has something called the Visceral Voice. You can find her on Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff, but she really focuses on that breathing alignment issue, because again, we're athletes, so we have to think about posture, structure, bone structure, muscle use, the use of our lungs, all that kind of good stuff. Again, the book called The Vocal Athlete. I'm trying to think what else. I'm going to move into this next one. I am an SLP, speech language pathologist, but I specialize in pediatric and autism therapy. So I'm not talking in that capacity. I'm talking as a gigging musician. But I do go to the SLP conferences, and I found this amazing book. It's going to be backwards because I'm not technologically savvy and I'm not going to fix it. But it says Manual of Singing Voice Rehabilitation. So when I was there, I scoured the conference for any sort of like exercises that I could do, because I already kind of knew I was having issues at that time. This was like last November, and I had seen the ENT, but I'd wait like 3 months for speech therapy sessions to start, and I was in like a lot of pain, and I had a full gig schedule, and I knew enough from previous events that I didn't want to push myself further than I could go, because I didn't want to risk yet another injury. So I actually found that book, and it did give me some great case studies, exercises, recommendations, suggestions. So that is a really great place to start if you kind of just want your own little like handbook. It's not really, it is a textbook, but it is not that hard to understand. It's really user friendly. Okay, so trying to think about what else. Another thing that you can consider if you're going through like a moment of like having like hoarseness and you just want to like make sure you're kind of doing everything you can for yourself. I know we already talked about hydration, voice rest, vocal budgeting. One thing we didn't talk about is acid reflux. I didn't mention it, but it is really important. More people have acid reflux than they think. You can have acid reflux or something called GERD. You can have silent GERD, but it is a voice killer, because basically acid is like coming up, as we kind of probably know, but it's like bathing your vocal cords, especially when you sleep. So definitely take a look at some precautions you can take, but I'm just going to list a few right now. So if you want to get started, you can do things like avoid fatty food, eat fewer acidic foods, limit drinking alcohol, caffeine, carbonated fizzy. All those last three things, they kind of like loosen your esophagus so that there is more likely for acid to come up. I think even some like allergy medications do that. Sometimes they will loosen it. I'm not sure. Don't, do your own research. I'm not talking as a medical capacity. I'm talking as a singer who's just been dealing with this for about 20 years. You want to limit eating meals 3 to 4 hours before bed. Do not lie down after a large meal. And even when you're sleeping, you can kind of like sleep with a raised pillow, kind of like this, so that you're never totally laying down. It's funny, I to this day have like a really weird pillow sleeping arrangement, because about like 15 years ago or something, I was having a really bad bout of acid reflux. I just got really used to sleeping at this like weird angle. Again, and then sometimes I will alert, this is not medical advice, this is just what I do. Sometimes if I know I have like a gig the night before, and it's going to be a long gig, I need my voice to be working, I might even just like preemptively drink a little like Pepto-Bismol before I go to sleep, just to kind of like keep that calm. Some people, I know ENTs and SLPs will often recommend going on to an acid reflux medication as a kind of preventative or as a treatment. But again, before you do anything, please consult with a doctor, and that goes for anything I'm recommending. They always say that Pepto-Bismol, acid reflux medications, definitely consult with your physician before you do anything medical. But I'm just sharing that this is kind of, some survival things, or some things that if you were to go to an ENT or speech pathologist, they would probably make these recommendations to you. They did to me. I've been many times, and every single time they do it. There's something called Reflux Gourmet. That you're going to want to check allergy kind of things on it, because it is, I guess, like a food-based acid reflux thing. But it's kind of like a little gel pack that you can eat right before sleep, but that is like a non-medicine based kind of like acid reflux preventative. So that's something you can look into. Again, I'm not telling you to do this, but if just check it out, and if your doctor says it's fine and you don't see any like reason why you shouldn't do it for allergy reasons, like these are all things that you can try. I want to also talk about sleep. Anytime you're sleeping, you are resting your voice because you're not talking. So as a gigging musician, we tend to be night owls, but it really is important to make that time for yourself, to come up with a good sleep routine. Look into, holistic stuff if you struggle with sleep. But that sleep is very important, because again, we're athletes. So see how, if we start thinking like this, athletes get injured. Think about football players, soccer players, karate, anything. They get injured. It's a part of the game. They also take precautions for their health. They rest. They have rest days. They have diets. They have hydration regimes. They sleep before important games. We're the same. We're dealing with the same sort of thing. So it's normal, and it is normal to take precautions. Okay. So with that being said, I also wanted to talk about, I know I mentioned this before, but I want to dive into it a little deeper. I'm really big on spacing my gigs out to the point where I will literally be booked. If I get asked to play, I'm booked on a rest day. I don't perform. You have to prevent, because once you get in that spiral of over gigging, overplaying, singing on a hoarse voice, it just gets exponentially worse. And once you're kind of in that cycle, it's really hard to undo. And when you're forced to undo it and you have to take the time to undo it, it's going to be a minimum of a month process, if not a 2-3 month process. Like my latest time with the SLPs, they wanted me to stop gigging altogether for 3 solid months. I wasn't able to do that. So I was able to give them a month, and then I had to cut heavy gigs, and then I just only kept my really gentle gigs. You don't want to get into that situation. It's not fun. So, and you definitely don't want to get into a situation where you get hurt. So to prevent getting into that situation, you want to space your gigs. If you have heavy gigs, please try not to do them back to back. I mean, I know it can be a money earner. It can be an opportunity for exposure. It can be an opportunity to play for a new venue. All these things that are so exciting. And that you just have to have like these rules and not break them, because I'm someone who gets very excited to play. I love getting to play new venues or new locations or new cities. But honestly, one time when I had one of my major issues, it was because I shouldn't have performed, but it was my first East Coast of Florida gig, which I live in Florida, so that was like a 3-hour drive away. I was really excited. I should have canceled, and I didn't, and that had really bad effects. That was one of my 2 times when I had a major issue. So it just have your rules and stick to them. I try not to play back to back, and if I do, like as in like a 3-hour gig on a Thursday and a 3-hour gig on a Friday, I really, it's, as a vocalist, you really need to be careful. So I try to at least have a day in between my gigs, and then if for some reason I have to do that, I will totally rewrite my set, pick really easy, minimal range songs. Like I like indie beach pop, so like I'll do some like Jack Johnson songs and like Jason Mraz, and just keep it super chill. And then I might try to like really not sing for like a solid like 3 or 4 days after that to rest. Another thing you can do too is you can find ways to, when you're performing, like I am kind of that solo singer songwriter, so I'm like playing guitar and singing my songs, and I play solo a lot, so I don't have a lot of like musicians to kind of fill in the gaps for me. But if you are in a position where you're gigging a lot, and maybe that's you, or maybe you're kind of just getting started, just find ways to maybe kind of get some filler so you can get those vocal naps within your set. And again, a vocal nap is like a mini voice break. Or mini voice rest period, I should say, not break as in breaking it. So like find your friend who plays djembe, or find your friend who plays guitar, or even I had an amazing musician, I'm gonna shout out his name, Carlos Santos. He played bass for me at my last 3-hour gig, and it was so much fun, and it just gave me the opportunity to like kind of play some guitar and not sing, and he was playing bass, and I really noticed a difference, even just taking a solid 30 seconds, or like a solid for people who know music theory, like 8 to 16 bars of just like letting having Carlos playing his bass lines and me just strumming my guitar, and then like interweaving that throughout my set, as well as playing like more of my gentle songs. Like I'm not doing Janis Joplin on a set when I'm kind of feeling fatigued, right? I'm going to stick to my Colby Calais and Jack Johnson that are like really like easy on my voice. And I know I'm speaking to a very specific genre, but I hope you guys know these musicians well enough to kind of get what I'm saying. Like gentle versions of your genre versus your kind of more show-stopping pieces. Save those show-stopping pieces for when you're in a healthy voice and you're in a healthy situation. But anyways, that really helped me. That really helps. And it's fine to do this. And the funny thing is, the more you do this, the more you realize other people are doing this and other people are thinking like this, and we don't like talk about it. These are like tricks of the trade. But the more you're like, oh God, my voice is killing me, I really need to do that, they'll start being like, oh, find a lead guitarist. Then they can solo and they can rest. I'm like, oh my God, it's such a good idea. So these are things that people do. These are things that people think about. These are things that professional musicians do. And also like professional musicians like have voice coaches, and hopefully if they have a good voice, like, and I'm talking famous musicians, hopefully if they have a good voice coach on their team, their voice coach is advocating for them to their agents and to their venues to like really stand up for them when they need to like take a break, you know, because their voice is their livelihood. Now, if you're like me, I do not have an agent or a team, so we have to advocate for ourselves. And then if you have a cool little, you know, community group, which I know a lot of us musicians, we play open mics and we have our friends that we like to jam with, you know, just build that network and share and be open with your friends, and they'll encourage you to make the right choices. I know my friends, I'm going to shout out some other people because why not? You know, we're on YouTube. So my friend Dino from Foolish Relics, he's a original musician, a really cool ska punk band. He really had some come to God conversations with me about like, it's not worth it. Do not break your voice over $100 gig. Just don't do it. It's not smart, you know. And if they don't understand, like, find another one, find another venue, you know. But I'm finding through my experiences that most venues are understanding. They don't want you to get hurt. And as long as you work with them and try to give them a lot of notice or try to find them a sub, they'll understand, you know. And so I think it's definitely worth just like advocating for yourself. Okay, I think that's enough for now. We talked about spacing gigs, rest days, acid reflux. I have my cheat notes. I'm making sure I'm not forgetting anything. Sleep. Okay, I'm going to talk about one more thing, and then for the next video, I want to talk about some specific little handy dandy tricks and items that I use. I think I'm going to do another voice exercise video as well. So the last thing I'm going to say, since we're talking about being an athlete, when I was in Christine Schneider's The Visceral Voice class, it kind of made me realize how important your bone structure and your breathing and your alignment is. And I know that should seem obvious, but it had never really occurred to me before. So I don't know what, it just prompted me because like my neck, I was realizing like I couldn't move my back. My back was kind of frozen and like couldn't move my neck all the way left and felt a little lopsided from playing gigs and stuff. So I was like, I should go to a chiropractor. So I did, and actually that was a huge culprit for me. Turns out like I'm kind of like in a position where like my upper neck, cervical, anyways, blinking right now. But they were my spine was basically turned to the left a little bit, and my chin is kind of like this. So all this left-sided musculature was like really tight and overworking, and this is my side that flares up. And not only that, playing guitar or any sort of like stringed instrument can also give you kind of like an asymmetrical, weird posture thing. So if you guys are open to it, you know, again, I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just saying that I have found a lot of relief and help through chiropractor. It was very enlightening for me. So just do what you feel is safe. Any sort of medical or internal or structural thing that you decide to do for yourself, please consult a doctor. I will stop there on this topic. I just throwing it out there as a consideration. Okay, so I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna make my next video. And as always, I just kind of want to do a shout out for my autism families and autism friends of families. I am an autism expert. I have a website called www.autismfamilycoach.com. So if you know a family who's struggling or looking for guidance or looking for support, maybe help with the school system, or you are a family with that, please feel free to reach out. I love helping families just like I like helping my singers. So that is it for now, and I will see you in the next video. All right, thanks. Bye.